Welcome to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer. Jeff Hood, our good friend, the national CEO of the Police Athletic League, is here, and he'll be here momentarily. William Wilson, out from another celebrity shootout or acting deal or something. He's here. I'm glad you're here, Will. Lots of things going on in the sports landscape. The Carolina Panthers are back at training camp, but big news from college football, and unfortunately not good news, and I want to get right to William Wilson here. Urban Meyer has been put on paid administrative leave after allegations of domestic violence have been lodged against an assistant coach of his that reportedly Urban Meyer said he knew nothing about, but apparently there's been conflicting information saying he did know about it. And William Wilson, you started the Clother Classic Celebrity Golf Tournament that raises awareness for domestic violence. I want your immediate take. What is that right off the bat?
I think we finally reached the crux in the road where do we care about morality or do we care about athletics? I think we're at that point now. This is a big enough program, a big enough name where we can't avoid it anymore. It's not a player. It's not ex-assistant coach. It's something that brings down right in the middle of one of the biggest names in college football. So we have to deal with it, finally. I think Urban Meyer knew about it. You don't get to the point where Urban Meyer is and have the kind of control over a program you do without knowing what's going on.
Now, supposedly this is the same coach that was with him at Florida that is now with him at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. Now, there's been I'm reading some of the reports that I'm going off memory on that there were problems with this now former assistant coach with his now estranged wife at Florida and now at Ohio State. And now some of the text messaging done by Brett McMurphy, the reporter, is saying that this has been known and that Urban Meyer's wife knew about it. And, obviously a coach,
I'm sure a lot of people knew about it. But what happens, and the ugly reality of sports, as long as you're winning, we let people get by with it. You can sucker punch people in locker rooms. You can sucker punch people in film rooms. You can do almost anything you want to as long as you're winning. Once you stop winning, or until you get to the point where you can't hide it, people just let it go because you keep winning. You don't bring a coach from one program to another program with you that you don't know really well, that you don't know intimately. He knew what was going on. You can't hide that kind of thing for so long between the wives, the coaches, and all the intermingling that goes in between. He knew about it. They were winning, and it didn't matter.
Now, this is also going to reach. There's an athletic director, there's a chancellor, there's a president, there's board of trustees. There's a lot of people. And Reggie, if you played college football, you played in that the Big Ten conference. What's your take as a former player?
Well, first of all, here's the first problem of this entire thing, and I'm not in no way am I ever gonna defend what Zach Smith may have done because, we've seen pictures, but there's been no police report. Anyway. One of the big issues with this situation as it relates to Urban Meyer is they've got a big sign on their board in the locker room at Ohio State. And one of the first core values they have is to not disrespect women, put their hands on women, etc. If that's something you're preaching and you've got up on a wall, even the situation that happened in 2009 where he says him and his wife counseled this young man and his wife, even then, you've got to escalate more than just counsel this young man and his wife. You've got to do more than that because, again, not only is it just straight up wrong and you shouldn't do it, no one should do it, but to add to that, you use it as a core value of your program and continue to push that narrative to the point to where it's the first thing the players see when they come in the facility every single day.
All right, now
to me, that's where it gets even worse because you should have been quicker to react if that's on your board.
All right, now Mountaineer Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, was Jim Tressel, the former head coach at Ohio State, was he fired for allegedly having some type of inappropriate relationship with a tattoo parlor and players receiving inappropriate gifts, basically shown the door over some type of cash and tattoos and stuff? If the standard is if you do that and you're fired, if these allegations are proven for Urban Meyer, where does that leave Ohio State, Mountaineer Mike?
Looking for a new coach. I mean, it's really
as far as Urban Meyer situation is concerned, it's really simple. If it's determined that he did know about it in 2015 and did nothing about it, and he, as he claimed, he just found out at media day, he mentioned how he just found out about it. If that is false and he didn't know back in 2015, he's gone. He's got to be gone. There is no justification for keeping him around.
And let me add to that by saying, I don't know if you guys saw it, but he was asked a direct question about this at media day, and he was asked flat out why he fired Zach Smith. He never answered in terms of a reason why he fired him. So if you found out about it and then you fired him, but that's not what you fired him for, then again I ask the question, what did you know or not know? Because to me, I don't care what anybody says. If anybody's going to get fired, you got to have a reason.
Well, can he publicly disclose something that he said? The coach got fired for domestic violence. Now, has there been a charge lodged? Has this been adjudicated? I mean, can he officially say the reason he was let go? Could be whether it's an internal matter. There's privacy ramifications, etc.
But right, he could have said that. The problem is he didn't say anything.
Exactly, and he claims he didn't know about it until just recently,
right.
Which we're finding out. The allegations are that he knew as far back as 3 years ago, and that's where the problem is from Urban Meyer's perspective.
Right.
It's not the domestic violence he gets from his assistant coach. It's the lie about it that's going to get him fired.
As we've always heard, the cover-up is often worse than the crime. And then to add to that, the point about firing him as a collegiate head coach, you can fire a coach and assistant at any time you choose for whatever reason you choose. Mm-hmm. So he could have even said, you know what? We got a core value on our board is that you don't put your hands on or disrespect women. Right. There's an allegation of that. He has to go, period.
Right.
Just on allegation, Will, or do you need to have some type of substantiation?
I don't think you fire someone off of allegations. I think there's a process has been in place because I know firsthand.
I was about to say, Will.
It's very easy to lie on somebody, make up a story, and put them through the ringer. I've had to go through it myself. Now, so I don't say you fire somebody because of allegations. Once you go through the process, and if you're found guilty or whatever, then by all means go along with it. But you have to follow a process. That's another concern. Now, if Urban Meyer fired him because he knew what was going on and knew it was correct, he knew it happened, he has all the right in the world. Like Reggie said, you could fire him just because he didn't like the way he wore his sneakers. You could fire him for whatever he wants to. But if you knew something was going on and you fired him preemptively, but you didn't want to say anything about it because you didn't want to affect the court case, whatever, that's one thing. But now, me feeling the way I feel about domestic violence, I think that's just as wrong. But because that means you're not really standing up for what you got written on that board. If you wrote on the board, if that's the reason you made that stand, let the people know that that's what you mean it. It's not just It's not just letterhead. It's not just something on a board to make for PR. You actually stand by it and you put your word to it. But whatever's going on, if you fire somebody because they've been proven in your eyes to be guilty of what they're doing, and that's why you fire them.
There you go. Very good segment in the books. Stay tuned. We've got more talking about sports. Jeff Hood, the national CEO of the Police Athletic League, is here. We're going to go down to Carolina Panther training camp. Plus, we've got to talk about that wild wreck at Pocono, Will. Plus, NASCAR safety, the Watkins Glen this weekend. We've got that and much, much more here at Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. NASCAR coming to New York.
Again.
I thought Bubba Wallace was dead.
Dude.
Did you see Welcome back to Talking About Sports with William Wilson, Mountaineer Mike Freer, Reggie Walker, and Reggie, Carolina Panthers have put on some pads down there. They're not just shorts and T-shirts. I think they don't like hearing you disparage them with their shorts and T-shirts. But unfortunately, some injuries have hit the Carolina Panthers, and your starting right tackle, and Ross Cockrell, I believe, a potential starting DB. So Darrell Williams, their starting right tackle. These are important injuries. No injuries, unimportant, but two starters, and especially a second-team All-Pro guy. That's very hurt. That's very painful.
Yeah, it is. And let me make one comment about training camp and the changes that have been made. And I've said this for years, and I can take it all the way back to when I was actually in high school playing. Obviously, in high school, you play on Friday nights. That coach I had in high school in California, we popped pads on Thursday. But you know what? By Saturday morning after the game, not many guys were in the training room. Changed high schools, we didn't pop pads on Thursdays. A lot of guys were in the training room on Saturday morning. You see where I'm going with this? Now that there are so many other rules for player safety, and I'm not saying those are bad, but you've got to remember, as much as these guys work out in the offseason, you cannot replicate some of the same things you're doing in live speed practice in your offseason conditioning. That being said, you add that to the fact that, no, they're not popping pads two times a day. Right. They're only practicing once a day. It's a lot easier. Now, these are different types of injuries. You're talking about a patella dislocation for Williams, and you're talking about a broken leg for Ross Cockrell. Yeah. So those are a little bit different. But when you start seeing some of those rolled ankles and tweaked knees and those kinds of things, a lot of times it's because of the body has not built up that punishment tolerance the way it used to be able to do when the rules were a little bit different. But those type of injuries, listen, anytime you lose an offensive lineman, and I've always said, you win games in the trenches. If you're missing offensive linemen, listen, there's a reason why the next guy was a backup. And I'm not saying that makes him a bad player, but he wasn't as good as the guy in front of him, or else he would have been starting.
Now, Mountaineer Mike, you said in the pre-show hit that Philadelphia had a lot of injuries last year, but they had depth to sustain them. They lost, I believe, their left tackle here at Carolina on a Monday night game.
Yep.
So the depth has to stand up for Carolina. I believe Taylor Moton, a second-round pick from 2 years ago, was competing for the starting left guard job. He played right tackle at Central Michigan. He's going to be moved over to right tackle. And Amini Silatolu, a former second-round pick of Carolina and the nephew of King Haku, the WWF, by the way, he's got to step up, and he's obviously leading the way maybe at left guard. So depth is important, Mike.
Yeah, it's obviously it's a disappointment for the Panthers and to have it happen, and it really pushes you to the limit in a very competitive division. I said the last time we were here that I think it's the most competitive division in the NFL, or it will be this year. So you really don't want to lose key guys like that, especially first week in camp, but it's not unprecedented to recover, to regroup, and to bounce back and make a playoff and win a Super Bowl with backup players. It's going to test your depth. That's exactly right.
And the one positive out of these injuries, if there can be one, the two places that the Panthers are probably the deepest, with the exception of defensive line, offensive line, and defensive back. They've got a lot of bodies there, a lot of capable athletes at those two positions that hopefully they can withstand this and not put themselves in a vicarious position.
Well, but do they have depth? Is there capable? There's capable and there's winnable.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Are these guys
and that's
winnable?
What we're going to see.
That's what's going to test you. And another thing that rarely gets hit on or hit upon is the fact that when you lose really good players, that affects the guys on the team psyche too. Because we can say, I remember when I was in NASCAR, if our front tire carrier got hurt or something, we had to bring in another guy. It took a while, as a jackman, it took me a while to go, can I really trust this guy? Can we trust this guy? It took a while to build that trust up over them. Now, I think the biggest advantage of these guys getting hurt is the fact it happened so early in that you got enough time to bring in somebody. They can learn the playbook. They can learn Cam's tendencies. They can learn the running back's tendencies to understand how to fit in and flow better because it happened so early. I think if this happens 2 weeks from now, it's a totally different thing. Because now you got to go through 2 or 3 weeks of actual registered games to get that momentum.
There's time to scour the waiver wire. There's possible trades. There's guys on the street.
Exactly.
And the other positive is they're still at 90 guys right now.
Right.
And they get to stay with 90 a little bit longer,
now, the only
which
problem,
I think helps.
The only problem with the situation is you're losing a really key offensive lineman with Nora Turner as your offensive coordinator who lives off the offensive line, and you really wanted to see his impact on a healthy group. And the defensive backs, you really don't want to be too short-handed when you have Matt Ryan twice a year, when you have Drew Brees twice a year. And that's really a tough spot. But like you said, it happened early. There is depth at those spots, so hopefully they can recover for their sake.
All right, another great segment here in the books. Before we're going to come back and we're going to have more Panther discussions. Our own Taylor Davis is down at training camp. We'll get some on-scene reporting. Plus, we've got to talk NASCAR. We've just touched on it briefly, Will, about that crash down at Pocono plus Watkins Glen. A huge race coming up points-wise. The road course before the cutoff for points. Plus, National Police Athletic League CEO Jeff Hood standing by. We've got that and much more right here. Talking about sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
Panthers training camp is in full swing this week, and after an off day yesterday, the team returned to the field today for another full pad practice. Now, a point of emphasis is, of course, the two major injuries that have happened thus far in training camp. Coach Rivera says he's really looking for guys to step up and take advantage of the opportunity of those two open spots.
The guys that we brought, in terms of backups the last couple of years are guys that have to step up. That's probably the biggest thing. Amini right now is having a good camp, and let's don't forget Amini started for us, been a good starter for us. Just that when he got hurt and Andrew Norwell got his opportunity, Andrew kept the spot. But seeing what Amini's been doing, pretty pleased with that. As far as the right tackle position is concerned, yeah, Daryl's a big loss, but that's why we drafted Taylor Moton. Right. As we get later and later in the camp, we're starting to see guys step up. Is really what you look for, especially with the young players, is that who's going to step up. And especially this time, that's our sixth practice. We've had 7 installations. It's an opportunity for us to see where they are.
Another point of emphasis today was the intensity of the secondary. We saw that defense really living up to the hype, and we expect to see big things from those cornerbacks.
They're both fast, both got good inline speed. As I said, you see Kevon stronger at the point, but you see Dante with the quickness and speed. So, it will be about matchups. It will be about, who's going to cover who, and what the best matchup would be for us in certain situations, especially in game situations.
It was a great showing here today for the Panthers, and there's plenty more to come.
Too bad he got hurt.
We will be bringing you all the action from this year's Fan Fest happening this Friday in Charlotte. So be sure and stay tuned to ADSN for all things Carolina Panthers.
All right, we're back here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, and a great job, Taylor Davis, down at Spartanburg for camp. Coach Rivera, Riverboat Ron, upbeat as well as he should be. Now, DJ Moore is being compared to Steve Smith. Now, I think that's very, very premature to be comparing DJ Moore to Smitty right now. And I hear Curtis Samuel, who I consider the second coming of Percy Harvin, William Wilson, since
Wow.
I think Curtis Samuel has done about as much as Percy Harvin so far in his career.
Well, it's still his training camp.
He's been injured as much. Seemingly.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. If these guys can make it through a season, we'll see. I think calling DJ Moore, comparing him anywhere to Steve Smith a week and a half into his career is the most asinine thing I could possibly think of without having a political conversation.
Well,
so I think, he's like 6 inches taller than Steve Smith.
I don't know. He's a short guy too.
How tall is DJ? I thought he's like 6 something.
No, he's barely 6 feet tall. And Smitty's supposedly
but Smitty's 5'8", so it makes him 4 inches taller if he's 6 foot tall.
Now, Smitty gave him the endorsement. He's the best guy that they've had since I left. But I would have said if you're going to compare him, you need to go to film study with
That's
Smitty.
like being the smartest kid in remedial school. They haven't had a lot of really great players on that roster. So saying you're the best since Steve Smith, now Steve can say he's as good as me, that's different. Steve's not going to say that. Exactly, because we don't know. He may be better. He may be the best wide receiver in history. He may be the next Jerry Rice. But you can't learn that 2 weeks into training camp. Actually, we're in week 2. We don't even have 2 weeks in the books yet on his rookie year.
FanFest tomorrow. And by the way,
think that's insane to make a statement like that.
Speaking of FanFest, tomorrow night, Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, you get a Panther pre-FanFest package, which you get bacon-wrapped jalapenos, turkey legs, a dunk tank. They're going to be on scene. You have a shuttle from here to there, and they're actually going to have a setup there with a dunk tank, a grill out, a DJ, and $2 off craft beer. So we got to
can dunk Kevin.
You need to have a good guarantee to have me out there.
And if they had a drunk tank, I might be on board.
If that's the case, I'm here, but that's going to cost you some more. What do you, Mike? What do you think about the Panthers? We talked about the injuries. What about DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel?
The downfall of training camp is that you get stories like this.
Yep.
You have to come up with something every day. I read something just the other day, and one of the notes about the highlights of the day from training camp was that Greg Olsen made a diving catch or sliding catch on a pass. It's every little thing becomes magnified, and it's the only thing I'm excited about when it comes to the Panthers, and I'm even interested in the preseason, is to see the impact of Norv Turner on the offense.
Norvell
with
Turner.
Cam Newton, with C.J. Anderson, with McCaffrey. I want to see his imprints on this offense. And until then, I don't get that in training camp. I don't get that in practice. I want to see it in a preseason game. I don't even care if it's preseason. I just want to see the impact.
Yeah, and I think if you're Ron Rivera, you're looking for one thing in training camp, and it's seeing guys perform
too much
consistently. And one of the stories, that's been out there has been the consistency of a lot of guys. That sounds great, but talk to me after week 4 and see if that consistency is still there.
Hey, Reggie, what do you think about Elijah Hood, who was last year on the Oakland Raiders practice squad, former Tar Heel, Charlotte Catholic running back? A lot of people think he could make the roster, even maybe not right off the initial 53, but he could get in that running back mix with C.J. Anderson and McCaffrey and that group.
Well, here's what I would say. As much as I like Elijah Hood, and I've met him a few times, good kid, who are you going to cut?
Right.
To keep him?
Cameron Artis-Payne. I guess it's coming down to those guys. Or that.
Well, and I think the thing that Cap can give you that we haven't seen Elijah Hood do is special teams, returning kicks in the kicking game. And so you have to ask yourself, if and I'll say this, if you do see Cap let go for Hood, what that tells me is they're going to put kick returning duties in the hands, more than likely, of Curtis Samuel, and you might see Damiere Byrd stay on this roster as well. So I think that's going to tell us how many receivers they keep if they get rid of Cap, because they lose him in the special teams game.
Well, let me ask you this: Can what's the kid name from UNC Charlotte?
Yeah, I was thinking him.
Austin Duke. He's fast. He's a quick little guy.
He's the fastest guy in camp.
Yeah, So could he be your kick returner or punt returner?
It's potential, and it potentially could, and that's what they've got to figure out. I think a lot of times when we look at rosters and we think about the NFL and we think about the 53, so many people are looking at the 11 on offense and the backups and the 11 on defense and the backups. You add a kicker and a punter, whatever, but we forget those guys that. And Charles Arbuckle has said it numerous times. One of the things that got him an opportunity in the NFL was special teams play. Yeah. You got to have guys that can fill those roles. And so you have, as an organization, you have to ask, okay, can Elijah Hood be maybe a gunner on the punt team, or can he be
I don't know about that.
the personal protector for the punter?
Maybe.
Can he be a return guy? Can he be one of the blocking guys in the return game?
Possibly.
Or is Cap better suited for what you're looking for?
He's a veteran.
Well, I think, but another thing too, like me personally, I put very little stock in kick returners at this point, because now they're kicking off.
Yeah,
because they're kicking out of the end zone anyway.
They may get rid of it.
That.
Well, here's where I think that's an interesting point. My only, I wouldn't even call it an argument to that, but my only caveat in that conversation is a kickoff is a live ball if it's not caught.
Exactly.
And the hardest part, I've said this for years, I was a punt returner. Well, I wasn't a good one in college, but I've returned punts before. And kicks. It is very difficult to read the football. And I'll tell you, people don't realize this. This might be North Carolina, but we get some swirling winds in late October and November.
The swirling
Catching
winds.
the football
autumn
first.
winds are upon us.
Catching the football is dangerous.
All right, autumn winds are upon us here, and we're going to take a break. We got to get Reggie's T-shirt All-American of the Week and talk about the corner jobs that could be coming up. Plus, we've got Jeff Hood from the National Police Athletic League and William Wilson's take on this coming week's big road course race coming up in Watkins Glen. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. This is Talking About Sports. All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here with Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson, and Reggie, your T-shirt All-American of the Week. We'll get to that in a second. But what do you think of this DB battle? I think you pointed out a segment ago. I think one spot where Carolina has some depth. They did let you. Who's your buddy from West Virginia? Was it Worley?
Yep.
They did get rid of him for the Smith guy from Philadelphia who broke Ross Cockrell's leg. But DB is a position of depth. I like the rookie. Is it Dante Jackson?
Yeah.
And Kevon Seymour, a guy I got to know last year down the stretch. He came on down the stretch, was a nickel, was a dime, then moved to nickel, and then he was starting at the end of the year. I think Kevon Seymour is going to be a starter outside of Bradbury.
I tell you, there are two guys that my eyes are peeled on in that secondary.
By the way, has Corn Elder done anything since you've talked about
Well,
him?
he was hurt last year. He was out all last year. He was on IR. I expect that's one of the guys I look
Curtis
forward.
Samuels.
That's one of the guys I look to make some plays this year. But also the rookie Jackson. And let me tell you, I talked to one of the coaches on the staff, and I actually brought this point up to him, and he says to me that I'm exactly right. I'm interested to watch the rookie over the next year and a half. You got to remember, this guy was a track kid in college at LSU as well.
Right.
What's going to happen over the next couple of years, that 175, 180 frame, whatever he is, small frame, you're going to see him put on some weight because now he's just a football player. And once that body fills out, you'll see him be more physical, and keep an eye out for him playing more of that kind of that new hybrid position where they're playing guys corner, safety, slot kind of guy. He's got that kind of speed, those kind of hands. He puts on a little bit of weight. He'll be physical enough to be supporting the run game. So look out for the rookie Jackson as his game evolves this season and then obviously into 2019.
He might roll up on a big wide receiver or a tight end that they may knock him into back to LSU. That's all I'm saying. All right, Reg, your T-shirt All-American of the Week. Who's that? You got one?
Well, you know who? It's funny. I'm actually gonna.
Curtis Samuel's probably gonna be in T-shirt and shorts all year.
Nah, but I'm actually with this one. I'm actually gonna go away from the Panthers, and I'm gonna say this right now. And it's a guy I've actually been high on, but I'm gonna kind of call him a T-shirt All-American for now. Lamar Jackson came out and said he ain't gonna run out of bounds.
I love Lamar Jackson.
Get your behind out of bounds.
Yeah, believe it when I see it.
Does he think he's Roman Gabriel?
I don't know who he thinks he is, but that's just not a recipe. Don't take a hit if you don't need to take a hit. And that's just not for quarterbacks. That's for anybody. Right. If you're getting ready to take a big hit to try to get an extra yard and it's not going to warrant you a first down, get your behind out of bounds if you can. Well, he better learn pretty quick.
Even if it's not going to take a big hit, sometimes you need to run out of bounds to stop the clock.
That too.
For the betterment of your team, for the strategy of the team.
Will, if it's me, Lamar Jackson, who I think will find playing time this year, he's better than Robert Griffin. And I think Flacco still is the starter. But I think Jackson's going to get on the field. But he better learn quick that if you don't get out of bounds, the NFL does stand for not for long.
If he does get out of bounds, the NFL still stands for not for long. But you got to be able to walk and talk after you get out of the league. That's the thing to it. That's a good way to end up on drill patrol by the time you're 40 years old. If you don't take licks for no reason.
And let's call a spade a spade. Go back and look at Lamar Jackson in college. There were plenty of times where he got his behind out of bounds. Don't be a hero in the NFL that you wasn't in college. Be the same guy. Know when to get out of bounds and know when to get down.
Exactly.
You want to say know when to hold him and when to fold him.
Get out.
They say that playing poker. So you better know how to learn that in the NFL. All right.
Make a business decision.
Make a very good business decision.
Yeah.
All right. Now we've got college football. We've talked about that at the top of the show. We've got some racing. Jeff Hood, the national CEO of the Police Athletic League, is coming up. You're watching Talking About Sports from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill.
Ready to roll. We're fixing to take off to D.C.
There should be congressmen and women already there waiting for you guys, and we'll get you guys going with your day.
All right, let's go.
Are you happy to be a part of PAL? Yeah! Okay, that's better. Thank you. I'm Dave Reichert. I'm from the state of Washington, and I started the PAL program in the King County Sheriff's Office in Seattle in 1997 when I became the sheriff. If you don't really know what a struggle is, how can you help people with a struggle, right? You've got to be in the struggle to know how to help. Okay, they're kind of shy. It's exciting to have all these kids from PAL all across the country, and there are some here from my home state of Washington State also. And so good to see them engaged, good to see them meeting with their members of Congress. But more than anything, it's great to see the look of hope in their eyes and the support that they're getting from all the adults that are here too. And I was a part of the PAL program when I was the sheriff in Seattle, and I can still today be a part of it as a member of Congress by going to the events and enjoying events like these and meeting with people from PAL and supporting them as they support our kids and give them hope for the future.
I'm having so much fun. I think it's a great experience for people across the world, or kids across the world, to be able to come to Washington, D.C. and tour these different sites.
It was great. We spent about 30 minutes in the office this morning with a lot of the kids from North Carolina. They asked a lot of great questions, and PAL, I think, is a wonderful program, and I'll do everything I can to support it in North Carolina and nationally.
You look at these young people behind me from Richmond and Henrico, the amount of great work that police athletic leagues do all across America is remarkable. Giving kids a shot, giving the kids a chance to be athletic, but also get a chance to visit and see our nation's capital. So go Police Athletic League, and most importantly, go Richmond, go Henrico. All right.
We had a great time at the 2018 National Youth
Summit! He's gonna win another. I think, yeah.
All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. Talking some golf here. Tiger Woods is on fire. William Wilson, he's 5 under with 16 holes in the books. 2 more holes to go. Only 2 shots back, so that looks good. But let's welcome in Jeff Hood, the national CEO of the Police Athletic League.
Jeff,
we just saw the video feature. You guys are up in D.C. Tell us what you guys were doing in D.C. and how was your trip?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh, great. All right, we'll come back with...
thanks for coming on.
I'm done. No.
Try not to get a tariff tax on him.
No, but we first, it's good to be with you guys, man, and appreciate you having me on as well, and hopefully we'll be able to do this several more times throughout the year. But as it relates to National PAL, man, last week we was blessed enough to host our National PAL Youth Mentoring Summit, and we had over 650 participants that converged upon Washington, D.C., and it was a great opportunity for these kids to expose them not just to how D.C. works and the political aspects of decisions made in the best interest, hopefully, of this country, but it gave them an opportunity to speak from a social justice standpoint, from an opportunity of meeting their elected officials from all around the country. We had representation from over 45 various states, as well as including St. Thomas Virgin Islands and San Juan, Puerto Rico. And these kids kind of put some of these senators and congressmen to task, about, hey, these are some of the things that's going on in our community. we need your help and we need your assistance. And, I can't say enough for the preparedness of our chapters around the country and preparing the kids to be able to verbally, conversate with these congressmen and senators and do a great job.
I will let you go ahead. You want to lead?
I've known Jeff, 10 years at least.
I've known him longer, but it didn't get me any golf tournaments.
That's because he saw you swing. But
I got a new driver.
But I tell you, I've known Jeff a long time. When Jeff used to be in the Police Activity League, they used to have a golf tournament. He was in charge of the Charlotte chapter. They had a golf tournament there. He used to do Dale Curry's golf tournament and stuff with Steve Smith. There are unsung heroes in your communities all the time that don't get the respect they do. Ever since I've known Jeff has done stuff for the kids and the youth in this community to make them better people.
Didn't he lead you to get swindled at a $1,200 for a Michael Irvin jersey?
No, Mike jumped up on his own on that. Mike did that all on his own. But that's a different story. I want to get Jeff to get his due respect publicly because it probably won't happen because that's not the society we are now. Jeff, I want to thank you on behalf of all those kids that you've helped out and did a lot of stuff for, bringing in players and athletes and stuff to make these kids better young men and women in the community. I've been watching you do that for 10 years before you did on the national scale when no one knew who you were. You were still doing it, and I appreciate that.
No problem. I appreciate it, and I thank you. And you know me and several guys that may be listening. It's not about me. Because I was one of those kids, growing up in the projects in New York and all. Well,
Jeff, what inspired you to get involved with the Police Athletic League?
I'm sorry?
What inspired you? You said you were one of those kids. Why did you get involved with the Police Athletic League?
Well, I was a PAL kid. Growing up in New York in the projects, man. I grew up in Queens in the Police Athletic League program. So I know firsthand the impact that a program such as this can have on a young person. I understand what it's like to be in some of these communities where there's not, programs or there's not athletic endeavors or there's not volunteers to be able to pull you aside, and smack you in your head when you need to be smacked in the head, when you think you got it all, and so that's in part why for me it's come full circle. I was one of those kids growing up, and that's why I continue to fight to be able to give these kids the same opportunities, that kids of privilege around this country may have. I didn't have it like that. Growing up where I grew up, we played on the cement, man. We didn't have access to growing up in gymnasiums and hardwood floors. And now being able to provide some of those opportunities, and not just from an athletic standpoint.
Best part here, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm seeing, man. These wings are looking
Jeff,
tight right now.
As we get some food here from the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill, we've got the fantasy draft special. I believe you get 2 buckets of beer, 2 pizzas, 2 wing platters, 2 nacho platters, a semi-private space for $100. So let's make sure you do that. And Jeff, I think that's some quesadillas, pizza, wings. What is going on locally with the Police Athletic League?
Sure. Well, we're Charlotte Mecklenburg Powell is continuing to do some great things. They've been in existence for over 40 years. We just recently started another chapter serving the Mint Hill Matthews community in partnership with Chief Ledford of the Mint Hill Police Department.
That's a growing area.
Yeah, it really is. And the thing is this, guys, is a lot of times people think that these areas of privilege, when you look at Mint Hill and you look at Matthews, you equate that to $300,000, $400,000, $600,000 homes. But within these communities, there's pockets where there's kids that are not living that way, but they still need service. They need to still be engaged, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we did recently. And then as well, we just went into Charleston, West Virginia, opened up our first chapter in West Virginia. West Virginia is known now for being ranked among the top 5 states for youth opioid use and abuse, as well as for teen pregnancy. So we went in there and we partnered with Chief Cooper and Mayor Jones in Charleston, West Virginia, and we opened up a chapter there. And that's what we're looking to do now, is go around this country to see where there's pockets where they're not being serviced and served. We're also going into tribal communities as well, because there's, again, a large number of concentration of of kids that are abusing opioids and drugs and teenage pregnancy, and that's where we're going to fill those voids.
Well, Jeff, we got to get you up to Concord one day. And how can people get involved with the Police Athletic League if you want to volunteer, or if you have some stories, or you want to get more activity with the Police Athletic League? How do people get involved, either to get you guys to come to where they are, or how can they volunteer and help you guys out?
Well, it's a combination of both. A lot of people, when I go around and I have these kind of conversations with media or what have you, I give people my legitimate cell phone number, and people look at me like, dude, did you just give people your cell number? But I do, because I don't want any opportunity to get past us of where we need to have impact in helping these kids. Hey. So first and foremost, anybody can reach me on my cell, 704-400-6035, or they can as well go to nationalpal.org. We have information on there. That information comes directly to me, and trust me, we will definitely get right back in touch with you.
That's awesome.
All right, we got one more. We'll get next segment. All right, we got Jeff Hood, Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. This is Talking About Sports. All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with Jeff Hood, the National CEO of the Police Athletic League, Mountaineer Mike Freer, and William Wilson. And Will, big crash at Pocono this weekend. I thought Bubba Wallace was in bad shape. He's going down the longest straightaway, going at least 200. And as you know, because the brakes are used in those turns, his rotors failed, and he's got no brakes, and he's going 200, and he's going down the straightaway.
Yeah, and the thing is, had he just turned to the right and let the wall take some of the scuff the speed off, he probably would have been much, much better off. But their drivers, they're taught to go left on an oval. That's just what it is.
And he
goes through, and he scrubs some of the. He turned the car and tried to scrub as much speed as he could off, and he hit the wall going sideways, which I think is the best thing for him. Because by the time he hit the wall, he was still going, I think, 153 miles an hour.
Wow. He went into the grass to try to lower his speed.
I just said that.
Well,
but
you didn't say the grass.
I just explained. I said he went to the grass and scrubbed off his speed.
You didn't say the grass.
Check the tape. Isn't that how you say it? Check the tape? But anyway,
Check
he scrubbed it off. I think he's going like 153 miles an hour when he hit the wall. But fortunately, he hit it sideways, which if you ever look inside these cars, they've got the helmets, the Hans devices, and there's also this padded arm that comes out. You only got like 1/8 of an inch between your helmet and that padding. So when he hit, there wasn't a whole lot of this, like Dale Earnhardt had dealt with, called the basal skull fracture.
Right.
So that's what helped him a lot. But I was really concerned. I didn't think he was dead because he hit the wall sideways. But I thought he's probably knocked out and unconscious, and I wasn't sure if he'd recover from it. We didn't have another Steve Park type situation.
Oh, that was awful.
That's what I was worried about, because he hit that wall really hard. It took so long to let that safety net down.
Yeah, I was worried.
I was like, let the net down. Like, just put the net down, I'll be okay. And it felt like the world just stopped. Because I knew Bubba when he's racing Legends cars.
Right.
So we're not friends, we're not buddies, but I've known him for a while. And I was just really worried. I was like,
he's a big guy.
That was the longest. No, he's not. That was the longest, like, 40 seconds I've had in NASCAR in a long time.
Now, I'm texting you during this, and I'm saying thank God for soft wall technology, safer barriers, Hans devices, because we obviously know what happened to Dale Earnhardt in 2000. That was just a bad situation. But at that same track, Dale Earnhardt had a similar wreck where he lost it. Dale Jr. talked about it in the broadcast. His rotors failed and shot through the car.
Yeah.
And then he went up into that turn in a similar way, and he and Tim Richmond got into a big crash. So that is something that NASCAR is definitely going to look into, the brake, the cooling of the brakes and keeping the brakes cool.
Well, but those kind of things, there's only so much you can do when you're going from 200 miles an hour to like 100 miles an hour, because you got that one turn that's such a sharp turn. You got a downshift and all this. But I think I would say this, and I know some people may not like it. It may come across the wrong way, but it's not meant to. Dale Earnhardt probably saved Bubba Wallace's life.
Wow.
Because you imagine, because all the safer barriers, Hans device, and all that stuff happened after Dale died.
Right.
If all that stuff's not there, I'm not sure Bubba's still here.
Oh, you're right. And you think about it, people who've gotten hit, you mentioned Steve Park, Jerry Nadeau. These are people who've been hurt, but yet they haven't died because of the constant each year, like there's all sorts of things that are added each year in terms of safety, research, and technology.
Yeah, but NASCAR was going like this, a little gradual.
Yep.
When Dale Sr. died, he was such a big name, they went from this to this.
Right.
I mean, they jumped up. The Hans device post Dale's death. Safer barriers post Dale's death. that padded armband being closer post Dale's death.
Randy
All that
Latour's
stuff-
working on better seats.
Well, Randy's always been working on better seats, but now people aren't buying them because the seats are so expensive. No, they're expensive seats, but they're worth it.
I think
They
as
are
well,
worth
just
it.
overall testing has improved since the Dale Earnhardt situation.
It has, but they can't test as much though.
Right.
But so to be competitive, teams used to go and test. They may test 10 times a year.
Right.
Now you can only test so many times per team. No, so if you're an underfunded team like Hendrickson, Gibbs, they got 4 teams.
Right.
They can do their tests and spread the wealth around each other.
Right.
But if you're, one of these if you're JTG or some of these teams, Richard Petty only has like 1 or 2 cars.
Yeah.
It really puts you behind the curve and that kind of thing.
Jeff, does Police Athletic League, you got any deals with any of the NASCAR teams, or are you going to get involved with some type of a program coming up?
Yeah, we are. We actually have been having some conversations with NASCAR Diversity, of trying to look at, what part we can play in engaging a lot of our chapters around the country and introducing the sport to youth all around the country. So we are having that conversation, and a gentleman that I know that Will knows is Sam Bell-Navis.
Sam got me into NASCAR.
Yeah, well, Sam and I are the ones that's having this conversation and this dialogue, and we're trying to see exactly what that fit is, and that is sustainable, that it's not one of those one-time jump-off type of things, that we want to make sure that it's something that's going to be here, not just for the here and now, but also down the road. So with that, yeah, we are definitely looking at the NASCAR game.
Well, if there's anything I can do to help, because Sam Bell-Navis, I mean this from the depths of my soul. If it weren't for Sam Bell-Navis, I'd have never got a chance to be involved in NASCAR.
Yeah. You wouldn't have 2 of those rings.
I wouldn't have my championship rings, none of this stuff. I was the first African-American to win a championship in NASCAR on a pit crew, and I would have never been on that. I would have never known what to say, what to do, or gotten that first opportunity were it not for Sam. Now, here's a question I have for you, Jeff, I was going to ask before the break. We're probably in the most tensious time with, in the inner city kids and police.
Yep.
Now, I know with PAL, that tends a lot to deal more with inner city kids. Are you seeing are there programs in place to set up? Are you seeing a change where getting involved with those kids or helping them have a better relationship, where the police and the community have better relationships because of that?
No question. And the thing about it is this, people are scrambling now. Unfortunately, that's why my phone is ringing. It literally just rang.
So you just gave out your number.
And, my phone is ringing, and our phone is ringing because people are all of a sudden like, oh, wow, this is kind of a new phenomenon. We don't know how to act. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to engage. PAL has been around for over 100 years. The unfortunate thing about this, and quite frankly, we haven't done the best job of promoting our brand and who and what we are and the success that we've been having around the country. Unlike some of our other youth serving organizations that still do, great work, Boys and Girls Club and what have you. But what makes us different and what makes us the world's foremost leader of engaging kids, cops, and communities is the fact that we have that presence with law enforcement. Starting that process earlier, helps those relationships. They'll build those relationships and support base between law enforcement and our community youth and law enforcement. So doing that, we're having great success by opening up these programs around the country and engaging law enforcement. But I tell you, I had an interesting conversation with the Fraternal Order of Police, and they was like, Jeff in D.C., and they was like, Jeff, what are some of the things that you think has changed some of this? And I said, back when I was a young person in PAL, I didn't have to go knock on the window of a police car and says, hey, can you roll your window down? I'd like to get to know you a little bit. You had officers that were out walking beats, that was more a part of the fabric of the community.
Right.
And you get to learn each other,
You knew him by the first name.
Exactly. Right. And I think that's because of those changes in the office, the car now being their office, a lot of officers are stuck in their cars because of, rightfully so, having to do paperwork and all of those things. The downside of it is it's not allowing them to get in to establish those rapport and relationships and to know their community a little bit better.
All right, I mean, because
it is the important. People don't realize how important it is. The experiences that people have with police at a young age. D.L. Hughley is a good friend of mine, a client of mine.
Right.
At 8 years old, a police officer pulled a gun on him. I think he pulled a gun on him, but put him against a police car because they were trying to find somebody in their neighborhood, and told him, "Ian, if you don't tell where he is, I'm gonna blow your head off." to this day, DL has a certain feeling that he feels about police.
Right.
And that was formed at 8 years old.
Yeah.
Now he understands, that not all police are bad and all that stuff.
Sure,
but his
sure.
experience was formed then. I have a totally different experience with police.
Yeah.
I go to school with the police chief's son.
Yeah.
He knew my parents. I never looked at police as anything adversarial until I got older and started hearing the stories and seeing things like this. So I think it's very important to get to people very, very young to help make that difference.
Sure. And it's important that we do that. But again, the same way there may be some bad officers, there's some bad people in communities as well.
That's why you need police.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, before we go to a break, Mountaineer Mike, Watkins Glen in New York State. You ever go to a race up there?
I've never been to a race up there. It always impresses me the different track that they have up there, and watching it is very interesting. I've never. That's a little too upstate.
You know anybody? You know anybody that's racing? You going to pick a winner from Watkins Glen? I know who Will's going with.
Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch, you're going with Kurt, right? You go with Kurt every week.
I go with Kurt every week till he wins. We just found out, me and Kurt were hanging out the other day. We just found out Kurt won the Daytona 500 on my birthday last year.
Wow. You didn't know when your birthday was?
I wasn't paying attention to that date at the time. That's a good one. It took him 2 seasons, people. When Kevin Bonnie said something that was funny enough. But I didn't remember when we were going through. I didn't remember it then. We talked about it. We texted about it that day.
His suit size, his jacket size. He says he's going to win the Roval, right?
I know his jacket size. Kirk been wearing my suits for years.
All right. Well, I'm going with AJ Allmendinger. I'm going to go with him at the road race.
You with JTG. Surprise.
Well, I mean, my buddy Gib Miller and who's our guy? Mark
Kelso.
Mark Kelso.
We're going with the new up-and-coming guy in NASCAR?
There's lots of them.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're going to break. We'll be back with more Talking About Sports right after this. All right, welcome back to Talking About Sports. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill with William Wilson, Mountaineer Mike Freer, and thanks to Jeff Hood of the National Police Athletic League, and Reggie Walker. You're back in. We got time for some final thoughts and maybe a quick point about college football or sports gambling.
Speaking of sports gambling and that whole concept, the NBA made an announcement that they have partnered with an online sort of gambling kind of concept. It's going to pay the league about $25 million over the next 3 years. It's them and the WNBA, so that'll be interesting to watch. A quick little nugget. I wouldn't call this a good thing, but it is what it is. Art Briles has resurfaced coaching an American football team in Italy. So there's that.
At least he's far away.
Coach of Baylor.
But with all that being said, the NFL season essentially for a lot of people kicks off tonight with the Hall of Fame game. And with everything that's gone on, whether it's the TO stuff or whatever you want to talk about, this day is a culmination of a lot of hard work for a lot of these guys. And as somebody who once played the game of football, was never good enough, obviously, to be a Hall of Famer, it's awesome to see these guys get an opportunity to get enshrined into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So salute to the class, whether you like them or not personally. What they did on the field is the reason why they're there, so you have to give them credit for that. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to the 2018 Hall of Fame inductee class.
All right, Mountaineer Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to just shift gears for a second. I'm going to go to baseball for my final thought.
Let's shift gears to racing.
Because we don't address it enough, and as a Met fan, I don't address it at all these days.
Better luck next year.
But they're here in Charlotte, with the Charlotte Knights, the AAA affiliate of the White Sox, there is a prospect named Eloy Jimenez. He's 21 years old, 6'4", and he is tearing the cover off the ball. He is not just going to be a major leaguer someday. He's going to be an all-star someday. And I urge anybody, what little time there is left here for Jimenez in Charlotte, to get out to BB&T Ballpark and watch
Mike
him.
Pacheco and Tommy V.
Yeah, he's batting .376 right now
Wow.
in 27 games. He's got 8 home runs. He's slugging about 700. He's only struck out 12 times in 101 at bats. The kid
White
that's
Sox
hitting
are bad. They need to bring
moonshots
this
out
guy
there. He's a future. He's not just a future White Sox. He's going to be an all-star. So that's my final thought. Get out for the last month of the season, however long he's down here, and check him out. He's worth the price.
They sell out about every week, Will. That's right now. You can watch the games right from your penthouse.
I do. I just don't know the players, but I can watch it from my balcony.
You can.
But
tough ticket to get.
My balcony or the?
Wow.
My balconies are really tough.
I know,
get.
man. The combination changes every 30 minutes, from what I hear.
There you go. But mine, of course, I'm going to NASCAR because one, it was great to see Bubba get out of that.
Yes.
So hats off to the safety things that they're doing and they're going to keep doing. Me and Kurt Busch were hanging out at SHR
Name dropper
Racing the other day, and we were talking about the Roval. Cause I watched when he tested the Rovals.
Can't wait for that.
Man, I tell you, if you're not a NASCAR fan or you just look kind of on the fence, want to check out something, check out the Roval. It's the only course. It's the only course like that in the world. It's the newest track. It's going to be probably the most exciting race. It may help bring NASCAR back to at least some level of interest. And I hope that if there's other tracks that have road course races inside, I hope they have it there. Because I tell you, I'm giddy as a kid waiting on Christmas to watch this race. It's going to be a wreck fest. It's going to be a mess. And there's no way to handicap this race. There's literally anybody can win it.
I'm going to say Eric Jones is going to wreck for sure. That's all I'm going to say.
He may.
I'm sure he will.
You don't like Eric, man, but Eric Jones, I'm telling you, Eric Jones is the wheel man.
Hey, well, how hard is it to navigate those courses for drivers as opposed to traditional oval courses?
It's extremely different, man. Most of these guys spent their whole life literally only turning left. So when you have to turn around and incorporate right, and you got right and left, you got chicanes. That's different. So road course is going to be different. But this is going to be different than both of them because you got two completely different situations you're dealing with at the same time within seconds of each other.
Well, I'd like to see a cup race on dirt because I saw Eldora on the trucks the other day.
They're talking about doing that.
I know. I think I sent something to you, and you already knew about it. But I'd love to see a cup race on the dirt. So would Tony Stewart, by the way.
Do we all get to talk through Kevin's final thought like he did ours?
We should.
Okay, I'm just checking. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Mine's very quick. Reggie, you made a good point about sports gambling. I think
Kevin, he's going to tell you about a lot about sports gambling.
Because I think the MGM Grand is going to have proprietary information with the NBA, and I think it's going to lead to the MGM building their own building and getting their own team in Las Vegas. I got that. And don't forget, hey, there's football on tomorrow night, too. Johnny Manziel starts for the Montreal Alouettes against his former team, the Hamilton Tiger Cats, coached by June Jones.
Now, give me a second to get to the edge of my seat.
Hey, my boy Terrell Sutton plays for the Alouettes.
There you go. Another reason to watch. Will's guy, Terrell Sutton, plays for the Montreal
Former Carolina
Alouettes.
Panther.
Well, there you go. Kevin Tolbert, Jeff Hood, National CEO of the Police Athletic League, Reggie Walker, Mountaineer Mike Freer, William Wilson, the Hall of Famer. Who are you? What?
SpongeBob.
I can't say that, man. I can say a mini Selatolu, but I can't say that.
What's his name again? I'll say it.
I'm Kevin Casey. We're here at the
Moel Omari.
There you go. Thank you, Will.
There you go.
We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. Don't forget to come out here for Fan Fest tomorrow night and get one of these fantasy packs for $100. I'm Kevin Casey. We're here at the Dilworth Neighborhood Grill. So long for now.
And people, it's the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Say it right.